So last week was so successful as far as doing the freezer meals and sticking to my diet that I decided this week I'm going to do the same thing. So I have a whole new list of healthy weight loss meals that we can make, and we're going to do that when we get back today. First, we're going to make a real quick trip to the Dollar Tree where I'm going to look for some of those little freezer boxes so that I can put some of these things in the freezer and then just throw them in the oven later in the afternoons. And then we're going to head over to the grocery store and get everything we need for our meals. So I hope you'll join me today. It's going to be a great day. So this is my meal plan for the week, and I do have a couple things I'm going to be getting at the Dollar Tree, but basically we're going to start off on Monday with some lazy lasagna, some enchiladas, some of the beef cauliflower bake. Now I already have an extra one of those in the freezer, so I don't have to make that one. Some crock pot meatloaf from Trim Healthy Mama, a 10-minute pizza from Trim Healthy Mama. I'll probably go out next Saturday for lunch. So then just a keto chili relleno casserole. So those are my meals for the week. And let me show you what we're going to be picking up. Well, this is my grocery haul this morning, and this is going to take me all the way through next Sunday because we are going to do some food prep. My total for my bill came to $92.01. So I was able to keep this under $100, and it's going to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next week starting Monday. So actually, this is going to be a lot of really good stuff. So let's get started because we got a lot of prepping to do before we put these meals together. So the first thing that I'm going to do to get ready today is that I'm going to show you a way to extend your ground beef and your meat into something that will help you not only save money, but will be really healthy. So we are going to add some lentils to our ground beef. Now we're also going to do a mix of like half turkey, half ground beef, and then we're going to do some lentils. Now I have brown lentils, but I want to use up this container first. So I'm just going to cook these real quick in my Instant Pot. And then after we brown our ground beef, we're going to add the cooked lentils to it. And you're going to be shocked when you see what happens. So all I'm going to do is put my lentils on the bean setting. And it's going to go ahead and heat up, and then it will start. So I set it for beans. And it's going to cook for 30 minutes. And then after everything's, there you go. Then everything's cooked as far as my ground beef, I'm going to add my lentils. So the next thing that we're going to do is I washed my zucchini. I bought 3 small zucchinis at the store this morning. I'm just going to slice these lengthwise because I want to put them on my dehydrator for a couple of hours so that we can add them to our lazy lasagna for our meal for Monday night. So let me show you how I do this. It's super simple. I also add a little bit of fresh spinach to the lasagna, but if you put in all the spinach, you're going to end up with a real watery lasagna. So when I do add these different things, I usually go ahead and try to run it through the dehydrator. I have completely run out of sliced dehydrated zucchini from last summer because I had tons of zucchinis and I did these all the time, but this is a great hack to use. So let me show you how I do this, and then we'll have this dehydrating while we're working on some of our other things. So this is a very easy process. I just take the little ends off of both ends. And for me, I'm going to cut these in half, and then all I do is just cut them into 4 or 5 slices. I want them about maybe 1/4 inch thick. All right, we're just going to plug this dehydrator in and get this started. All right, I've washed my peppers, and so all I'm going to do now, I've got another meal I'm making where I'm making the deconstructed bell peppers. So I'm going to be flash freezing these on a pan and putting them in the freezer. And then that way, when it's time to put all this together tonight, I can just add my frozen peppers to my meal. Okay, I'm just going to throw these in the freezer, and I'm going to add these to my package when they're frozen a little later today. The next thing we're gonna do is chop up some onions. Now I'm trying to rush today because I usually play this event, this video game event with my grandsons, with both of them on Saturdays at noon. So I've got about a half hour, and then I'll pick up again after the event's over. But this is how my life works right now. Now you can buy your cheese, you know, pre-grated if you like. I really like to grate mine myself, so I have this little tool and I just kind of put everything through this. It's pretty fast. Okay, so before we get started cooking up our ground beef, I've rinsed all my lentils and kind of mashed them up a little bit. I'm gonna put a little bit of onions in here, maybe like a half a cup. I just like the way it flavors the ground beef when these get cooking. But we're gonna set our onions aside for when we start making our different dishes. All right, so we're gonna start off by adding these turkey patties. And then we're gonna add some ground turkey, and this is always about half the price of, you know, the regular ground beef. Plus, I think it's a little bit healthier for you to have the turkey instead of all ground beef. So I usually add a little turkey to mine, ground turkey. So these are a pound each. So I'm gonna have about 4 pounds of meat for these different dishes for my week's worth of food. So we're gonna just cook all this meat up, and then I'll bring you back and show you the next step. All right, I've got almost all the fat drained off, and then the next step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my lentils to the mix. Now I've rinsed these and I've cooked them. I've actually kind of smashed them down a little bit just so they'd have more of the texture of meat. Now, I know it kind of looks like corn, but that's because I used the light lentils, but it's not going to make a difference. This is going to be a really good way to extend your meat, and honest to goodness, you are not going to know the difference once this gets put into our dishes. There we go. We've got all of our meat and lentil mixture put together. It's all cooked, so I'm gonna set it aside and let it cool a little bit. So the first thing I'm gonna make today are my enchiladas. So I'm gonna put some of my ground beef lentil mixture in a bowl. Now this is gonna be enough for my husband and I to have dinner. I'm also gonna be putting some of this enchilada mix in here. Now this is some enchilada mix that I had already frozen, so this is some homemade enchilada mix. All right, now I've washed out my container, and all I'm gonna do is take some of these low carb, keto certified, now these are 2 net carb. They're called the La Banderitas tortillas. They're just a flour tortilla, and I'm gonna put a few of these on the plate here. Now these come out really good. I love these tortillas because they're super soft. Very easy to work with. So we're gonna take some enchilada sauce and just put that right down on the bottom of our pan. Then we're gonna take some of our meat that has the enchiladas in it and the cheese. We'll put some cheddar, sharp cheddar over the tops of these. Then we're just gonna roll these up and put them right inside of our little container here. Now I'm gonna fit 4 of these in here. They're gonna be nice size enchiladas. So my husband and I can each have 2 of them, which will be 4 net carbs for the tortillas, and I'll probably serve this with a salad. I like to put a lot of stuff in mine, so they're usually bursting at the seams, which is fine with me. If you want yours thinner, you make them any way you like. put a little bit of cheese right over the top. Not a lot, just enough so that when it cooks, it'll melt with our enchilada sauce. Now I know this sauce looks a little strange. I put it in the microwave under defrost, so it's not completely defrosted, but I don't care because I'm going to go ahead and put this in the freezer. So there's one meal completely done. Now I bought these little aluminum containers over at the Dollar Tree, and you can write down exactly what you have. Now if you want to cook this up to 250, you could leave this on. I always take these off before I cook them, but these are great for, you know, putting everything in here until then. So I'm gonna put on here keto enchiladas. And this is gonna be January 26. Now, I already know we're going to be eating these next week, but who knows, just in case we don't get to them or something happens. You know, things happen, but most likely we'll be having these for dinner one night next week. And there you go, one meal done. The next thing that we're going to be making is going to be our homemade tomatillo and Hatch chili casserole, also known as chili rellenos. Now I have a little bit of tomatillo salsa left over from a couple of years ago. Small amount of this and add it to our ground beef. I'm also going to be adding some cumin and salt and pepper. A little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, and about a half a teaspoon of cumin. Now I've also got some Mexican oregano. I think I'm going to put some of that in there. Maybe a half a teaspoon. Some cumin. And give that a good stir. And that's going to give it that taco-y flavor that everyone really, really, really loves. So I've taken some of my roasted Hatch chilies that I've frozen. I've roasted them, cleaned them, and I put them in my, I put them in the freezer so that I didn't lose one of the chilies. They are so good. So I'm going to take about 6 of these. I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. I started thinking, you know, you don't always get a bite of whatever it is you have if the pieces are too big. Now, I leave my seeds in my chilies just because that's the way I like them. If you don't like them as hot or as spicy, take them out. Now, I was noticing with this particular container that it actually had a hole in the bottom of it when I was cleaning it. Not a problem. I'm just going to put some foil in that. So now we're going to put a little bit of our salsa in here. Not too much, a little bit. We just want to put some right along the bottom. About 3/4 of our meat. We're just going to layer that along the bottom. Then we're going to take our chilies and we're just going to layer those along the top. Now, this isn't a recipe you're going to find on Trim Healthy Mama. I actually came up with this recipe myself because I love chilies. I love this tomatillo salsa, and I found this is just a really delicious dish. All right, so we're going to set that aside. I'm going to put a little bit more, I'm going to put a little bit of cheese over the top of that, just like this. And then I'm going to put the rest of my meat. Now I'm going to take the rest of my salsa and I'm just going to pour this into this bowl. I'm going to add a couple eggs. Just going to give that a good stir. You want all the egg mixed in with the salsa, like this. And we're just going to pour this right over the top of our mixture here. All right, now we're just gonna put a little bit more cheese over the top. Now we're gonna put our second little container top over it. And there you go, chili relleno casserole. Now we're gonna be putting together our lazy lasagna. So I'm gonna put a little bit of pasta sauce in the bottom of my container. So to our food processor, we're adding 4 ounces of our third less fat cream cheese. We're gonna use half of a container of fat-free cottage cheese and 1 egg. And there you go. We want a nice creamy consistency to our cheese mixture. Now we're gonna do the same thing we do with every lasagna. We're just gonna layer it and put it together. Now this recipe is actually enough for a family of 4. For my husband and I, we're the only ones here now, so I'm just making this for the 2 of us. But if you have a larger family, you can go ahead and make 1 bigger lasagna. I'm actually making 2 smaller ones. So I'm gonna put my meat mixture in here. All right, so now all we're gonna do is put down some of this creamy mixture onto our zucchini. I'm gonna put a little bit of this spinach leaves on it. I'm gonna put half of this meat mixture. Now I've mixed mine with my pasta sauce my homemade pasta sauce. I actually made this from some cherry tomatoes last year, and this stuff is so good. I just love it. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of shredded cheese. This is just some mozzarella cheese, a little bit of onion. And I'm gonna put a little bit more spinach. I'm not gonna put any more of the zucchini just because it makes it so big. And this is just we will go ahead and put the rest of our meat mixture down. Spread it over these leaves so it kind of compacts them a little bit. Just like that. We're gonna add the rest of our cheese mixture. Now this is just our cream cheese, cottage cheese mixture. Remember, I've already made one of these up, so I've got half of this on another bowl. And then I'm gonna put a little bit more cheese right over the top. A little bit more pasta sauce. I always put a little Parmesan cheese over the top of mine. And that's it. We're gonna go ahead and put the lid on it. Now, I'm not gonna have 2 lasagnas in 1 week, but I will have another one now for another week that I'm not gonna have to cook. Now, I made these last week, and I'm not exaggerating, they were so good. We're gonna have them again this week. So this was so simple. All I did was put some peppers over the tops of my sausages. Just like this. And these are just some sweet Italian sausages that I got at Sprouts. It's my local, I wouldn't say it's a health food store, but it's a more healthy option for a grocery store. These have no nitrites or anything like that inside of them. So I'm gonna just put some onions. And all we're gonna do is just put a little bit of salt and pepper over the top and bake these in the oven, and I'll serve these with some kind of an instant vegetable like green beans or something like that. These were delicious. I've never really had peppers just baked in the oven like this, but they were so good. I baked them at 350 for about, I think it was like 35 minutes. I just checked to see when they were done, and it was really easy. All right, so all I'm gonna do is label them. These are the Italian peppers. The last thing we're gonna be making today are some deconstructed stuffed peppers. Now this is a dish that I got off the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook. I'm going to take the rest of my ground beef and I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes to it, just like this. I'm also going to be adding a small jar of pasta sauce. This was homemade pasta sauce that I made last summer. So I mix all these together in the pan. Just make it real easy come the day we're going to bake it. To this, we're going to add 1 large chopped onion. So I'm actually going to put in about 2 big handfuls. To this, I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce. If you had liquid aminos, you could add them at this point. I'm also going to add some onion, flaked onion, as well as some pepper. So this is going to be a really easy recipe that we can do right over the skillet. And all we're going to have to do is thaw this out the night before, and it is going to come out so good. All right. So we're going to put our meat and tomatoes and this wonderful pasta sauce mixture in here. And you're going to serve this over some riced cauliflower. I could do the riced cauliflower ahead of time, but I will probably just mash up some cauliflower the day of. So we are going to take our meat mixture and we are just going to get all the air out, because this is the part we're going to put in the skillet first. Then we're going to take some of these peppers. Actually, we're going to take all of these peppers. These are going to go right over the top of our skillet when we're cooking everything up. Okay, there's our peppers, there's our meat mixture, and then all we're going to do is add some cheese to another bag with this dish. I'm going to add about a cup of cheese. This is going to be the mozzarella. And there you go. My meal prep for the week is all done. I've got a chili relleno casserole. I've got some keto enchiladas. I've actually got 2 lazy lasagnas. I've got my baked cauliflower and beef dip from last time. Just some extra peppers there. These are my Italian peppers and sausage. And this will be my deconstructed stuffed bell peppers. Now, one last thing I'm going to have, but I had to order it from Walmart, were some Joseph pitas. I'm going to do a 10-minute pizza for next Friday night. So this is my meal prep for the week. No thinking, no messing up, no having to run out at the last minute and buy food. We've got it all here. So I won't kid you, I have a huge mess to clean up, but only one mess for the whole week. The rest of it is going to be super simple and no mistakes. So I hope you enjoyed following me today as we prep for the next week. Last week was super successful. I lost weight, I'm feeling good, and I just want to continue on this path. So thanks for joining me. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give me a like, a thumbs up, or ring that bell for future notifications, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.